Did you know that every time you procrastinate, you're not just wasting time, you're also giving up on what you could become, on what you could achieve? It's not just a lack of motivation, it's a mental game that keeps you trapped in a cycle of inaction, pushing you further away from your dreams and from what truly matters. The problem isn't that you can't do it. The problem is that you don't know where to begin. But there's a key that few people realize. The real battle isn't in motivation, but in the discipline to move forward even when fear and doubt are present. Right here, right now, you can change that story. This is the moment to take control, stop waiting for the perfect moment, and start taking real steps towards your goals with clarity and purpose. Are you ready to break the cycle and finally do everything you set out to do? Procrastination isn't just a simple delay in getting tasks done. It's a deep-seated pattern that reflects an internal conflict, a tension between what we need to do and what we prefer to avoid. Often it's not just about laziness or lack of discipline, but it's tied to emotional avoidance. How many times have we felt the urge to avoid something that, even though necessary, brings discomfort, anxiety, or even fear? It's interesting how our brain, in search of immediate relief, offers us the solution of procrastination. However, this temporary relief usually comes at a much greater cost. As time passes, the pressure builds, and the emotional cost of procrastination becomes more and more evident. This pattern reminds us that the way we choose to deal with negative emotions directly impacts our ability to move forward. While procrastination may seem harmless at first, it has the power to create a destructive spiral. Take, for example, Steve Scott and his father. The story of his father, who ignored his body's signals until it was too late, highlights how avoiding discomfort can have dramatic consequences. It reminds us that our decisions, no matter how small they seem in the moment, can have repercussions far beyond the immediate. And it's not always something as severe as health. Even the small daily decisions carry significant weight in our lives. This pattern extends to all areas of our life, from the most mundane to the most complex. It's easy to find examples where we put off simple but essential tasks, like paying a bill or replying to an email. We think they're not urgent, that the world won't stop if we don't do them today, so we leave them for tomorrow. But it's in these small moments that our character is truly shaped. It's these small daily actions that, in the long run, determine whether we achieve our goals or remain stuck in a cycle of inaction. Procrastination doesn't only show up in the big decisions, it sneaks into the smallest, most everyday details. That's why often what seemed like a trivial task becomes a bigger obstacle when it piles up. A clear example is Steve Scott's mistake with his tax payment. A decision that seemed harmless, a simple delay, ended up costing him thousands of dollars. It's easy to see this as a financial lesson, but it goes much deeper. Procrastination, while it may seem like it only affects us at the productivity level, also has tangible effects on our finances, health, and even our relationships. The more we postpone what we need to do, the more we increase the feeling of being out of control, creating a kind of internal chaos that gets reflected on the outside. But procrastination doesn't have to be our enemy. In fact, it can become an opportunity to build habits that bring us closer to our goals. The challenge lies in how we choose to approach tasks, especially those that feel uncomfortable or challenging. It's not just about being more organized, it's about transforming our mindset toward action. This is where the idea of breaking tasks down into smaller steps becomes key. When we face a monumental task, its sheer size can be so intimidating that we prefer to postpone it indefinitely. But by breaking it down into smaller, more manageable parts, the fear and resistance diminish, and we feel more capable of taking the first step. True change doesn't lie in perfection, but in consistency. The key is to take action, even when conditions aren't ideal. Success doesn't require everything to be perfect. It only requires that we keep moving forward, even if it's one step at a time. Sometimes, procrastination isn't a real obstacle, but rather a way of showing us what truly matters to us. If we can identify the roots of our procrastination, we can use it as a signal to work on the areas that we truly need to strengthen. Transforming procrastination into a tool for personal growth requires courage. It's about overcoming the fear of discomfort, uncertainty, and imperfection. Instead of avoiding what feels difficult, we can choose to face it, even if we don't have all the answers. Motivation arises when we make decisions consciously, choosing to move forward even when the path isn't clear. Procrastination is not a destination we're condemned to. It's a choice we have the power to transform, one task at a time. Procrastination is an internal battle that many of us face, a conflict with deeper roots than we often recognize. While we often see it as a simple delay in our activities, it's much more than that. It's a series of internal patterns that, if we're not aware, can subtly but powerfully sabotage us. Perfectionism, fear of failure, and lack of motivation are the most obvious enemies. But what we really need to question is how these enemies take root within us, affecting our ability to take action and move forward. The truth is, these obstacles are not external forces attacking us, but parts of our own mentality that, when not properly managed, prevent us from acting. Perfectionism is a particularly insidious enemy. Often what stops us from starting a task is not how difficult it is, but the fear that it won't be perfect. This fear, instead of pushing us toward improvement, paralyzes us. It's as if we are unable to accept that imperfection is part of the growth process. We think everything must be flawless from the beginning, when in reality, perfection is a fleeting goal, an unattainable standard. Edison, with his famous "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work," shows us that failure is not the end, but an opportunity to learn and improve. Procrastination, in its most harmful form, makes us believe that only perfection has value, when in fact, constant action, even if imperfect, brings us much closer to our goals. The fear of failure is another force that keeps us paralyzed. It's fascinating how difficult it is for us to make decisions, even those we know are necessary, out of fear of the unknown. We face the discomfort of what we cannot control, whether it's a medical diagnosis or a difficult conversation, and we prefer to postpone, thinking that by avoiding uncertainty, we're buying time. However, this avoidance only magnifies the problem, making it more complex and harder to handle over time. Instead of running from what scares us, we should learn to see it as an opportunity to grow. It's in those uncomfortable moments where we find the possibility to transform ourselves, to free ourselves from the self-imposed limitations that keep us from moving forward. The "I'll do it tomorrow" mindset is one of the greatest self-sabotages we can inflict on ourselves. We deceive ourselves into thinking that what we don't do today won't have an impact, when the reality is that constantly postponing builds a mountain of tasks, decisions, and consequences that weigh us down. This is the kind of procrastination that feeds on the illusion that there will always be a better moment, when in reality, the perfect moment rarely comes. Delay becomes an even greater burden, not only because of what we don't do, but because of the emotional and mental weight it brings with it. Every time we postpone something important, we're not just delaying work, but also the well-being that would come from completing it. If we act today, even with a small step, that action becomes a brick that, over time, builds a bridge to success. In our daily lives, the simplest tasks, although they give us an immediate sense of accomplishment, don't bring us closer to our bigger goals. We're tempted to focus on the easy because it's comforting, but these small victories are just a temporary relief that diverts us from what truly matters. It's like a child who prefers to do simple tasks instead of studying for an exam that could determine their future. The key is recognizing when we're using these small tasks as a way to avoid what we truly need to do. Instead of running from the complex, we must learn to approach it strategically, breaking it down into smaller, more manageable steps that allow us to progress without feeling overwhelmed. Lack of motivation is another crucial aspect. Many times, we struggle to move forward because we don't understand how an apparently trivial task connects to our greater purpose. We feel disconnected, as if there's no clear link between what we do daily and what we truly want to achieve. This is where constant reflection on our purpose becomes essential. Every action, no matter how small, brings us closer to that larger goal, even if we don't see it immediately. Motivation isn't something that magically appears. It's something we cultivate by reminding ourselves why we do what we do, even when we don't see immediate results. Sometimes, the simple act of taking the first step can spark that flame that drives us to continue, creating a flow that pushes us forward. Facing procrastination also means dealing with paralysis by analysis. Often the magnitude of a project will overwhelm us, making us feel incapable of starting. However, as in many other cases, the simplest and most effective thing is to take the first step, no matter how small. Making a list, Organizing what we need to do and starting with the simplest task can unlock our progress and create momentum that, over time, leads us to complete what seemed unattainable. Action generates movement, and once we begin to move, the path becomes clearer. Distractions, especially in our digital age, are another obstacle that contributes to procrastination. Social media, apps, and constant notifications steal our time and focus, making it harder to concentrate on what really matters. One simple but powerful trick I've found helpful is setting clear boundaries, putting the phone on airplane mode, eliminating distractions, and creating an environment conducive to concentration. A change of environment, such as working in a quiet space, can also have a significant impact on our ability to stay focused. The excuse of lack of time is probably one of the most common, but also one of the most misleading. If we analyze our schedules, we can find many gaps that we're not using efficiently. It's not about having infinite time, but about learning to make the most of the time we have. Maybe you don't have an hour to exercise, but a short 15-minute walk is much better than nothing. Action, no matter how small, is always a step forward, and it's through these small efforts that we build the change we want to see. Procrastination not only affects our productivity, but also impacts our emotional health and well-being. The first step toward change is recognizing this challenge and adopting a more conscious and active approach to our tasks and goals. We must recognize this pattern and learn how to manage it. Procrastination becomes a real obstacle when we feel completely overwhelmed by the number of tasks and projects we have on our plate. We find ourselves trapped in a web of responsibilities, desires, and expectations, and instead of moving forward, we become paralyzed. What we often don't understand is that, in these moments, the solution isn't always doing more, but doing what matters most. We must be able to identify which projects are truly key to our growth and well-being and focus on them. This is, of course, a challenge because the noise of daily life and the multiple demands can cloud our vision of what's essential. But this exercise of prioritization not only eliminates procrastination, but also allows us to direct our energy toward what really matters, toward what connects us with our essence and purpose. We often feel lost amidst so many goals and commitments. It's easy to fall into the trap of trying to do it all, but this only leads us to paralysis, to a feeling of being busy without truly moving forward. If you've ever found yourself at this point, I propose an approach that can completely change the way we view our priorities. This approach isn't just about being more organized, but about being more mindful, understanding that not all tasks carry the same weight in our lives. The idea isn't to fill a to-do list, but to bring clarity to our lives. The simple act of writing down our goals can be liberating. It forces us to look at things from a broader perspective and helps us bring order to them. But the key is in what we do with that list afterward. Organizing our tasks isn't just a practical act. It's an opportunity to redefine our reality. The 25-5 rule is one of the most powerful strategies you can use to reduce information overload and focus your mind on what truly has value. This technique not only helps combat procrastination, but also invites us to reflect deeply on what we really want to achieve. By writing down 25 goals and then selecting the 5 most important, we're forcing ourselves to simplify our lives, to focus on the essentials. It's so easy to fall into the trap of wanting to do everything, of not wanting to leave anything out. But it's crucial to remember that attention and energy are limited. If we spread our focus across too many projects, we become scattered, and as a result, we lose effectiveness. Sometimes doing less really means achieving more. What's most powerful about this approach is that, by identifying those 5 key projects, we force ourselves to connect with our deepest values. These projects shouldn't be based on external expectations or societal pressures, but on what truly moves us, on what resonates with our essence. This is an opportunity to align our actions with our authentic passions and desires. What really matters to you? Maybe it's your family, your well-being, your career, or even your personal freedom. The point is, these goals should be the ones that fill you up, not the ones you should have, but the ones that truly bring you closer to the fullest version of yourself. It's common to feel trapped by what others expect of us, but this approach gives us a way to free ourselves from those chains and take control of our own lives. An exercise that can be helpful in this process is to remember a significant moment, one of those moments that filled you with happiness or deep satisfaction. What made it so special? It's likely that, by reflecting on that moment, you can identify the values that guide your life. Maybe it was the freedom you felt, the inner peace, or the sense of connection with others. That reflection can shed light on what truly matters in your life and help you prioritize those areas that bring you to life. By doing this exercise, you can not only identify your priorities, but also let go of everything that isn't essential right now. Some things may be valuable, but not urgent, and it's crucial to know when it's time to put them on pause. By narrowing your projects down to those 5 key goals, your focus becomes much clearer. At first, it may be difficult because the other tasks will still call for our attention, making us feel that they also need to be addressed immediately. But by remembering that you can only focus on what's most important, you begin to free up mental and emotional space. Procrastination loses its power when you have clarity about what you truly want to achieve, and that clarity allows you to move forward with renewed energy. The fear of making mistakes, which is always present in this process, is something we must learn to manage. Perfection will never be the goal because true value lies in progress, not perfection. Every step we take, even if it's not perfect, brings us closer to what we truly want. If we let fear take over, paralysis will only perpetuate. This approach, in addition to helping you reduce procrastination, also creates balance in your life. It allows you to make space for what truly fills you, for what connects you with your deepest purpose. It's not just about being productive for the sake of productivity, but about taking control of your life and consciously choosing where you're going to invest your time and energy. This method doesn't just organize your priorities, it helps you stay aligned with what truly matters. Deliberate, focused action aligned with your values is what will bring you closer to your goals. Many of us set goals, but we realize that achieving them can be more complicated than we expected. This often happens because our goals are vague, abstract, or simply lack a clear plan for execution. We find ourselves trapped in a mix of good intentions and blurry purposes. But the key to moving forward toward what we truly want to achieve lies in transforming those imprecise projects into concrete and specific objectives. The process of doing this not only improves our clarity, but also facilitates execution and reduces procrastination, allowing us to take more decisive steps toward our goals. The SMART model is a clear example of how to structure our objectives effectively. Each letter of the word SMART represents an essential aspect we must consider when setting a goal. Asterisk, asterisk, specific asterisk, 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 measurable asterisk, 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 achievable asterisk, 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 relevant asterisk, asterisk, and asterisk, asterisk, time-bound asterisk, asterisk. These 5 aspects are not just embellishments, but fundamental elements to make our goals tangible and attainable. Without a clear structure, our goals can seem too abstract or unreachable, leading us to procrastinate or stray from the path. It's easy to say, I want to be healthier, or I want to spend more time with my family. But without a defined framework, these goals don't have the strength to guide us effectively. Let's take a common goal as an example: spending more time with family. If we leave it as something vague, it's likely that work demands, personal responsibilities, and everyday distractions will get in the way. But if we turn it into a SMART goal like, I will turn off my computer every day at 5 p.m., I won't work on weekends, and I will dedicate 2 hours daily to be with my children and go out with my partner twice a month, we now have something much more concrete. This goal not only gives us clear guidance on what we need to do, but it also makes it measurable. We can ask ourselves daily, are we fulfilling the promised family time? The clarity in the goal makes progress more visible and therefore more motivating. This level of detail is what really makes the difference in the fight against procrastination. The clearer your plan, the less room there is for doubt or indecision, which are the main causes of procrastination. A specific and well-structured goal reduces uncertainty, that feeling of not knowing where to start or what step to take. When you have a detailed plan with dates, concrete steps, and a clear time frame, your mind feels more secure and ready to act. The human mind tends to resist the unknown, and procrastination feeds on that uncertainty. By reducing that uncertainty, we eliminate one of the biggest obstacles to action. It's not just about setting SMART goals, it's also essential to consistently track our progress. Often, procrastination arises when we don't know how to measure progress, or when we're unclear about whether we're making progress or stuck. Tools like Evernote or Todoist can be powerful allies in this process. as they allow us to organize our tasks and projects in one place, visualizing what we've accomplished and what we still have left to do. These tools also allow us to incorporate notes, links, photos, and other resources that can enrich our planning and keep us motivated. By seeing tangible progress, even in small doses, we reinforce the momentum to keep moving forward. What truly helps maintain focus is constant review. The simple act of stopping for a few minutes at the end of each day to review what you've accomplished can be a transformative change. This not only helps you stay on track, but it gives you the chance to make adjustments quickly if you realize something isn't working as expected. When we follow a rigid plan without reviewing it, we fall into the trap of pushing forward at all costs, even if circumstances have changed, or if we discover that what we initially set out to do no longer holds as much value. Flexibility to review and adjust is key, and that constant review allows you to ensure that your efforts remain aligned with your true goals. Additionally, as we move forward in our projects, it's important to evaluate our goals quarterly. This reflection process can be revealing, as our interests, circumstances, and priorities may change over time. What was essential at the beginning of the year may not be as crucial months later. The ability to redirect our efforts toward what truly matters at that moment can make the difference between following a meaningless routine or moving toward goals that truly resonate with our current vision. The goal, as you well know, is not to do everything, but to do what's most important. If we focus on our top 5 projects, give them a smart structure, and align our attention with what truly matters, procrastination loses its power. Distractions or new opportunities may arise, but a clear plan serves as an anchor, helping us stay on course even when everything else seems to pull our attention away. This kind of approach not only organizes our life, but also allows us to make decisions with confidence, knowing we are moving toward what we truly want to achieve. In a world where we are constantly bombarded with an endless list of tasks and commitments, learning to say no becomes one of the most powerful skills we can develop. It's interesting how society has taught us that saying yes to everything is a sign of being hardworking and committed, when in reality, this attitude can lead to distraction and burnout. The risk of not setting boundaries is precisely that. We overload ourselves, becoming more reactive than proactive, and what could have been progress toward our goals turns into a series of aimless tasks, dragging us further away from what truly matters. Over time, I've come to realize that the real challenge isn't the quantity of things we do, but the quality and relevance of those actions. Imagine for a moment how you would like to be remembered. Would you want your legacy to be based on what you achieved in terms of hours worked, or on what you truly contributed to the areas that matter most to you? The answer seems clear, but still, we tend to fall into the trap of thinking that the busier we are, the more productive we are. However, true productivity isn't in the volume of tasks, but in the impact they have on our lives. The key to living a life full of purpose and direction lies in learning to kindly reject those requests and tasks that do not align with what truly matters. By doing so, we not only avoid feeling overwhelmed, but we also create space for what has a deep and meaningful impact on our well-being. To learn to say no effectively, we must first have clarity about what we really want to achieve. It's easy to fall into the temptation of saying yes out of obligation to please others, or from fear of being seen as selfish. But deep down, by doing this, we're betraying ourselves by committing to tasks that divert our energy from what really matters. The key is learning to say no politely, sincerely, and firmly, without letting guilt overwhelm us. For example, if someone asks you to take on a task that's not part of your current priorities, you can simply and respectfully explain that you cannot commit due to other more important projects. This small act of self-care is not only liberating, but also sets a clear boundary of respect for both your priorities and others' time. In my experience, sometimes the key isn't just rejecting new tasks, but finding ways to combine secondary tasks with the more important ones. For example, if I need to do something routine like cooking, I try to do it while spending quality time with my family. This not only allows me to fulfill my responsibilities, but also optimizes my time, transforming seemingly trivial activities into meaningful moments. This approach helps us stay aligned with our goals, reducing the temptation to procrastinate by seeing that every activity becomes an opportunity to move toward our personal objectives. It's also important to take a moment to reflect on the requests we receive. Every time we face a new task or commitment, we can ask ourselves a simple question. Does this task really align with what I want to achieve? This reflection exercise can be surprisingly revealing, as it allows us to discern if we're saying yes out of true motivation, or just because we feel pressured by external expectations. It's in this analysis that we can often discover that our priorities need to be adjusted. Sometimes our feeling of being overwhelmed doesn't come from having too much to do, but from not being clear on what's most important. Redefining what truly matters to us can be the first step to finding the peace and focus we need to move forward effectively. An essential part of all of this is communication. In collaborative work environments, or when we have supervisors, it's crucial to organize meetings to explain our priorities and how we're managing our workload. This way, we not only create space to set clear boundaries, but also open the door to collaboration. By sharing our goals and the reasons behind our decisions, we can gain the support needed to delegate less relevant tasks, or even eliminate some that don't add value to our main objectives. Transparent communication not only eases our workload, but also fosters a culture of respect and understanding in our work relationships. We must never lose sight of our goals and objectives. In the hustle of daily life, it's easy to get caught up in the urgency of the moment's tasks and forget why we're doing what we're doing. Reflecting on our reasons and the values that guide our decisions is what helps us stay focused. Sometimes it's necessary to stop, breathe, and ask ourselves, why am I doing this? This reflection brings us back to the core of what we truly want to achieve and allows us to make more conscious decisions aligned with our long-term goals. So, learning to say no doesn't just improve our productivity. It also gives us a sense of control and purpose. It reminds us that it's not about doing everything we're asked, but about doing what truly contributes to our deeper vision and goals. Setting boundaries isn't an act of selfishness, but a self-care strategy that allows us to focus. Procrastination may seem like an invincible force in those moments when motivation is lacking, when the drive to act is absent. However, there is a deeper approach to overcoming it, one that acknowledges that procrastination isn't simply a matter of lacking motivation, but also how we manage time, priorities, and our relationship with the tasks that await us. Often, procrastination is linked to the fear of what's ahead, the size of tasks, or the internal resistance we feel towards certain projects. Recognizing this is a fundamental first step in starting to change the way we approach these moments. One of the most effective strategies for managing procrastination is to address urgencies as soon as possible. When we let problems accumulate, what might initially be a small issue becomes a monumental burden. By addressing urgent tasks immediately, we reduce pressure and prevent small concerns from becoming overwhelming obstacles. This principle applies to all aspects of our lives, at work, at home, and in personal relationships. If we can resolve immediate tasks quickly and efficiently, not only do we make progress, but we also generate a sense of control and accomplishment that propels us forward. Tackling things on time also teaches us to avoid the cycle of procrastination that arises when the accumulation of tasks makes us feel helpless. Establishing a small daily review time can be another simple but powerful change. Spending 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the day reviewing pending tasks and planning for the next day can make a huge difference. This exercise not only allows you to organize your thoughts, but it also gives you clarity on what really matters for the next day. This small moment of reflection reduces the feeling of being overwhelmed, helps us identify which tasks are truly important and which can wait. This daily practice can become an anchor for our productivity, providing direction and purpose amidst the daily whirlwind of activities. A particularly useful practice I implement is selecting 2 to 3 essential tasks and committing to completing them before the day ends. Often this may seem like a simple gesture, but it has a significant impact. The act of committing to a manageable number of tasks helps you stay focused and avoid getting lost in the vastness of what needs to be done. This approach not only makes progress tangible, but also gives you a sense of accomplishment and motivation. Sometimes starting with the hardest or most complex task can be the trick. Overcoming that initial resistance makes the tasks that follow seem easier and more manageable. However, if it's more effective for you to start with quick and easy tasks, that's fine too. As you complete those smaller tasks, your to-do list shrinks quickly, creating momentum and a sense of productivity that fuels your desire to keep going. One of the simplest yet equally powerful tactics to overcome procrastination is dedicating just a few minutes to complex tasks. Fear and disinterest are often the biggest enemies when facing tasks we don't enjoy. Instead of getting stuck in fear or indecision, we can commit to working for just 15 or 20 minutes on a task that feels difficult or unpleasant. This small time commitment is enough to break through the initial resistance barrier. Sometimes the simple act of starting is what unlocks the flow of work. Additionally, combining this practice with rewards, like a short break to enjoy something you like, makes the task feel associated with a more positive experience, reducing the dislike attached to it. Another way to maintain focus is by connecting our daily tasks to larger, more meaningful goals. Even though some daily activities may not be especially exciting, reminding ourselves why we're doing what we're doing can be a great motivator. Smaller or tedious tasks take on purpose when we see them as steps toward a bigger goal, a step that brings us closer to what we truly want to achieve. If daily activities are aligned with our values and long-term objectives, they become an investment of time rather than a burden, making it much easier to move forward even when motivation is low. The 80-20 principle is another powerful tool for managing time more effectively. This principle reminds us that 20% of our actions produce 80% of our results. By identifying and focusing on the activities that have the greatest impact on our goals, we can avoid falling into the trap of doing many things that don't bring us closer to what we truly want to achieve. This approach allows us to be more selective with our tasks, prioritizing what really matters and reducing activities that only distract or keep us busy without making progress. Using tools like Google Calendar can also be essential for staying organized and focused. Efficient planning, by assigning specific times for each activity, prevents us from overloading our days with endless tasks. By planning realistically and setting aside time for everything, including recreation, we create a balance that fosters productivity without falling into burnout. Organizational tools provide the structure needed to avoid procrastination and keep us on a clear path. Finally, eliminating distractions is crucial when we need to focus on tasks that require our full attention. Social media, emails, and other notifications can interrupt our workflow and divert our energy. By turning off these distractions or creating blocks of time dedicated exclusively to work without interruptions, we significantly improve our productivity. This practice helps us focus on what truly matters, maximizing our efficiency and reducing the tendency to procrastinate. These practices not only help combat procrastination, but also teach us to manage our time more consciously and deliberately. By being more intentional with our actions, we not only overcome procrastination, but also move more effectively toward our goals. With every small change in how we manage our time and priorities, we are building a solid foundation to achieve our long-term goals. Procrastination often starts subtly, as a small pause or a brief delay of tasks. However, what many don't realize is how this seemingly harmless habit can accumulate over time, deeply affecting our ability to achieve our dreams and goals. This inaction, though initially seeming harmless, has a tangible and lasting impact. Not only does it delay our professional or personal goals, but in more severe cases, it can even affect our health. For example, skipping an important medical appointment due to procrastination can be more than just an oversight. It can jeopardize our long-term health. Over time, I've come to understand that overcoming procrastination isn't just about finding motivation, but about learning to cultivate self-discipline and a clear, consistent approach toward our objectives. Clarity is key to breaking the cycle of procrastination. When you have a clear understanding of what you need to do and, more importantly, why it's essential to do it, procrastination loses much of its power. When we feel confused, lost, or directionless, it's much easier to give in to the temptation to put things off. But when we have a well-defined goal, it becomes much easier to direct our attention toward that goal and take that first step. Discipline, then, stops being an abstract concept and becomes the ability to do what you know you must do, even when it's not the most comfortable or immediate action. Discipline doesn't mean being inflexible or rigid, but being aware of what truly matters and acting accordingly, regardless of the internal resistance we may feel. Overcoming procrastination is not something that happens instantly. It's not a battle won with a single decision, but a continuous process that requires effort, patience, and, most importantly, consistency. However, what I've learned over time is that this effort is truly worth it. As you immerse yourself in the work necessary to reach your goals, you realize that the journey is filled with unexpected rewards. Not only do you free up time previously spent on unnecessary distractions, but by eliminating those sources of stress and anxiety, you create space for what truly matters: your relationships, passions, and dreams. As you progress, you not only improve at what you do, but also in how you feel, because constant action diminishes the emotional burden of procrastination. What's essential, however, is not allowing fears, doubts, or perfectionism to stand in the way. We all face fears, whether it's fear of failure, mistakes, or the unknown. However, if we let these fears paralyze us, we deprive ourselves of the opportunity to move toward what we truly desire to achieve. Perfection is an illusion. What matters is progress. Many times, the biggest obstacle we face is ourselves and our insecurities. We stop, waiting for the perfect moment to start, but time passes, and the moment never comes. The key is to move forward even when not everything is figured out, without waiting until we feel completely prepared. Fear, if not managed, can take control of our lives, and by giving into it, we lose the opportunity to make use of the time and energy we have now. Learning to move forward, despite the fears, allows us to start building what we want, instead of getting stuck in what we haven't done. One of the most valuable steps we can take to overcome procrastination is identifying the areas that truly matter in our lives. What are the most meaningful projects to you? What drives you to get up every morning and work towards something greater? Focusing exclusively on these 5 key projects can be a first step to avoid scattering our energy on less meaningful tasks. This approach not only helps you stay on course, but also allows you to recognize and reject distractions that, although legitimate in nature, do not bring us closer to our true objectives. It's a constant reminder that time and energy are limited, and we must use them wisely on what truly has purpose and value. Additionally, having a clear plan and reviewing it regularly is crucial for maintaining focus. Having a goal is just the first step. The real work begins when we commit to consistently tracking our progress. Sometimes, it's not even about having endless hours to work, but about making the most of small moments. Even if you only have 5 minutes a day to move toward your goal, those minutes count. Over time, small steps accumulate and create meaningful progress. What's important is maintaining momentum, even when immediate results aren't evident. This process of consistent progress is what turns an overwhelming task into something achievable and manageable. We cannot forget why we are working on our projects. Connecting our daily actions with our larger goals is a powerful motivator. Visualize what you want to achieve, what's still ahead of you, and what drives you to keep going. Procrastination may seem like a big obstacle, and, in many cases, a permanent one. But the benefits of overcoming it are endless. By taking control of our decisions, by taking action even in uncertainty, we transform what seems like a barrier into an opportunity for growth. There is no perfect moment to start living according to what we truly want. So we must seize the present to move closer to that version of ourselves we've dreamed of. The time is now, and procrastination, though real, is just a temporary barrier that we can overcome with clarity, focus, and determination. You've already taken the first step by recognizing that procrastination doesn't have to rule your life. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about taking action now, moving forward with small steps that add up to big results. What feels like a struggle today will become your new way of living tomorrow, focused, disciplined, and closer to your dreams. So, why wait? Take action now, put into practice what you've learned, and start creating the life you truly want. Remember, change begins with a decision. If this content has given you clarity and energy to move forward, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Comment below with your next steps and how you plan to apply this in your life. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. Your dedication is what will lead you to transform your life. Until next time.